Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. We have another session of What is the Ask podcast where a few Black friends come together out of Atlanta and Tampa and we discuss what is happening in Tampa, what is happening across the country, what is happening in Atlanta, what are Black folks talking about? As you know, there is a presidential election coming November 2024. Um, Even before then, we have a citywide election, runoff election happening here in Tampa. And with these elections coming down the pipeline, the question is, what are we asking for? What is our vote? What are we getting for our vote? So tonight, I've asked our panel tonight, is there a Black voting bloc? Is anybody talking about the issues that are relevant to Black people? And why is it so difficult for us to develop a Black voting bloc where we are analyzing what the issues are, figuring out who the candidates are that we're going to support, and we're having those discussions that are relevant to us so that when we go to the polls, in the case of Tampa, come April 25th, and when we go to the polls in November in 2024, we are all walking in lockstep. So the Black voting bloc, that's our discussion for tonight. There was a documentary on Monday, MSNBC aired Lowndes County, I think it is, The Road to Black Power. A powerful documentary. But as I watched the documentary, I started thinking about what is happening here in Tampa and cities across the country like Tampa that may have an opportunity where the Black vote could come together and actually control who gets on these various local election boards. So I'm going to talk to the panel tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about, is there, has there ever been a Black voting bloc in this country? And do you think it's possible for Black folks to vote for one candidate regardless? Alton, welcome. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm good. Sorry I'm late.
That's all right. That's all right. We knew you were coming. So, Black voting bloc. Have we ever had one?
Not if we've had one, it has been probably one of the most ineffective blocks. Um, and which is why um, ex- exasperated is too strong a word. Which is why I can't really finger one. Um, I have to say no. Um, a, if a voting block, in my opinion, is going to show itself whether it met its obvious goal, whether it met its stated goal or not, is going to show some kind of impact.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't see that. I think what we've had is a black voting herd where where
You're coining a new phrase. I got to write that down.
okay, where somebody just points, and they say, we gotta support this guy, or we gotta support this woman, and it's usually an afterthought. It's not a we meet somewhere and then the outsiders try to get in and we say no, 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 just we're gonna finish up, then we'll give you the announcement, like that conclave that the Catholic bishops have. We'll know what we decided when that black smoke goes up in the air, right?
Right. So you're kind of saying there, to have a Black voting bloc, there needs to be a strategy associated with it. It's not just an accidental after the fact. It
That is
is
that is correct.
strategy.
Within this realm of what we call democracy, it has to be behind closed doors. The leadership can be diverse in their views, okay, but they've got to decide to get together. And once they do that and get behind closed doors and they hash it out and they like the old machines of Tammany Hall and what have you. It's got to look like that. Or like our elders allegedly in Africa, where the elders sat around and they made the call, and the village fell in line,
Yeah.
but it was them. It wasn't it wasn't any of our tree hugging
Right.
non lineage friends showing
So
up.
let me use the words of paraphrase Bill Clinton when he was under, I guess, indictment, and he asked the question, "What is a voting bloc? What do you mean by that when you say that?"
Well, I think it's and I think that Alton was kind of hitting on it. It's leadership coming together with differing views, but with one goal, and they strategize who and what the group will vote for. And they point in that direction, and everybody moves in that direction.
Did we have a voting bloc for President Obama?
No,
No.
because we didn't go in the back rooms, like he said, and strategize. We fell into place after white folks in Iowa said he's okay. But we didn't say he was okay.
That's right.
They said he was
They
okay
said it was okay.
before we fell in line. So, no, we didn't think he could do it. So, we did not. There was no strategy on the part of Black folks for that presidency.
Well,
So then,
well,
how are you
well,
going to get ready for this runoff election in the next month then? Because
Well,
based upon your
before I-
definition,
Before I get to that, and I'm looking to you guys to help with that strategy that seems to be lacking. In terms of history, and Albert, I'm going to look to you for this. And after Civil War, Black man got the right to vote. They went to the polls, and for a while there, during the Reconstruction period, there were a whole lot of Black folks, men, in elected offices, from governorships and House and in Congress, rather. And so I'm wondering, with so much representation as a result of the Black vote, white folks saw that influence, right? And Ku Klux Klan, reappeared or appeared and kind of blew it out of the water. We had a voting bloc at the onset, and then it was destroyed or attacked, and then we didn't. And I don't think we've had one ever since.
I don't know that we actually went in a back room during that time. If you look at history, it was just kind of obvious. Well, we came out and we said, okay, we're free. Now we're going to vote for us. And we put some people in place. So it looked to be, if I were looking at it, it's just like I hear it, just like in Lowndes County, I'm going to almost say it was an emergency situation. And therefore, we all recognized we were on a sinking ship. And we all started trying to work together to plug up the hole.
Yeah, but I'm saying that that's what happened back then, and it needs to happen right now. It's a sinking ship. And I don't think we realize, to your earlier question, I don't think we as a country realize we're in a sinking ship. And where we can have those local wins, now I'm talking Tampa, we need to realize, whether we like the persons or not who are in a position to make history. Let's say we have Robin Lockett and Dr. Sonia Brookins, two people that most people don't necessarily know, but have made their way into a runoff. They have no chance without a major influx of Black vote. But there's an opportunity here in this sinking ship. And when I talk about sinking ships, I mean this country is in disarray, and everybody else is changing strategy, but Black folks, we're still doing the same old stuff that we've done before when it comes to how we approach elections, how we approach just about everything. And we're still not coming together to figure out what we're going to be in this new iteration of what America seems to be evolving to. And if we don't figure it out, at least on the local level, and I'm using Tampa because we're about to go into an election, MSN, I think .com picked up the fact that we had two Black women who won runoffs and could potentially make history. And so the sinking ship is, we're being told, hey, y'all, you got a chance. But the Black folks aren't coming together around it.
What's the sinking part?
The sinking part is the country. You got the state of Florida, for example. There, from a Democrat standpoint, we have a non-functioning party, period. The guy who is responsible for what's going on in Florida, the governor, is running for national office and competing with someone else who's in the state of Florida, who is the front runner on the Republican ticket. There is a move afoot to move away from democracy. And I believe that is because Black folk are getting too close. And if we ever had democracy, and that's questionable, that's another discussion, we're closer now than we ever have been. And as white folks decline and minorities increase, they have got to figure out, because they can't fool us about democracy anymore. They have now got to figure out, how do we change it so we can maintain control in this new iteration? I don't believe Black folks realize that if you don't wake up, your sons and daughters don't get to lead this country, because they will have figured that out before we could and put it into law before we could blink twice, which is usually the case of Democrats, which is always the case of Black folk.
I would counsel if I hate the word diverse because it's so hooked up with the left. But if I had a diverse group of Black leaders come into my office and say, Mr. Drew, we need a strategy, I would counsel them to, one, ignore the word salad and the buzzwords of democracy. And I would tell them, you need to have on the top of your want list strategic positioning and constant stream of political power. And democracy does not give you that. Democracy waters down your power. Democracy says, at least the way it's spoken today, that we need to have this, we need to all hold hands nationally to lead this country. See, I understand country from an emotional or social view. I do not understand country from a political view anymore. I don't think when we say our country, I think we need to, one, define what country is, but more importantly, because to me right now, when you look at country, you automatically dilute your power.
So let me go back to the movie. Let me cut my microphone on here. Let me go back to the movie Louds County. And by the way, I'm glad you led me to that because I hadn't seen that before. The county of Louds County, Mississippi, was 80% Black.
Right.
Yet they didn't have one Black leader in the county,
Right.
and they were able to get together and put together a what you call a coalition. And with that coalition, they were able to register voters. They were able to get them energized. But I gave that in the wrong order. What got them really going was they got energized with the idea that they could even make an impact. And so they worked through all of that process, got all of their people to run for office. They had the votes without a doubt. And what happened, Alton? When they got to the voting booth, that's when the cheating started.
Yeah.
See, because once again, when you got a train on a track, and whether a white guy is driving it or whether a black guy is driving, the train is going to go the same way. And by that I mean the voting process was driven on the same track. 80% voters, they should have been able to run the table and elect anybody they want to. But they thought that, as Alton said, that this was a Democrat and that they were going to play by the rules and they were going to believe in the one man, one vote. But
Right.
what they found out was that this is about power, domination, and control. And therefore, I think it took them three cycles of the elections just to get one person elected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had the block, they had the energy, they had the belief, and they understood what they thought was the political process. And that's what we don't talk enough about. You know, I still say we need to have my buddy Thomas on, who actually ran for office in Memphis, held an office in Memphis, and he says it all the time. You got to buy these politicians, or either change or be in a position to change the rules of the game.
Yeah.
You know,
So Jeanette,
so
Yeah, and I like that reality take because and I have a bad habit of doing it, but that's just my makeup. I can look really top down, but you gotta look at the plumbing, and that's where the political power question, the realities of political power, how you win it, how it's assessed. It's not just assessed by looking at that broad, oh, we got the 80%, we got the numbers. No. Because again, the power is where somebody's pointing, and who you can have a powerful river or stream or what have you, but if you have a few engineers a couple human beings who against that river don't look like much, but it's the engineering, you see, and how you move around those train tracks or what have you, that infrastructure to direct the vote or to dam up the vote to keep it from coming out.
yes, yes, they dammed up the vote. They threatened some people. They even brought out fake votes. But because their people were also doing the legitimization of the voting process, they allowed these fake people to vote. And so the first time around, they didn't get anybody, 80%, and most of them were registered.
Right. And which is what we see today. We're seeing the damming up of the votes, if you will.
Yeah, and as Albert was talking, I had to remember one of my probably too many rules, but anything that caters to the mass is dangerous and can be easily manipulated. The internet caters to the masses,
Yes.
which is why I do not trust almost anything that comes over the internet. Democracy caters to the masses, which is why it's ineffective. It sends the wrong signal that if you just come out in mass, that's it. So it goes back. So when we come to, and then also, it tricks you into believing that the crux of your political power is voting.
Right.
The crux of political power is finding those entry points and applying pressure on those entry points. The gatekeepers are really small in number, and the rule really is to identify them and push those buttons. And in a lot of cases, if you want something done in your neighborhood, your state, it could be specific or a little broader, we have to keep in mind that it's more than just a political state, i.e., the people that you vote for. I'm a big fan of the administrative state. And I say fan because I worked in it. What is the administrative state? The administrative state is that body of regulators, the guys who do the day-to-day implementation of the rules, the law, the management of markets, what have you. And yeah, you can mess with these legislators who are responsible for writing broad pieces of legislation, and then they're distracted. They've gone back to raising money. They don't pay attention to governance. If you want power, you have to identify those who are actually governing. And they are not in the what I call the political state. They're not your congressmen, they're not city council, they're not those guys. The ones we need to be focusing on, depending on what you want, short term or long term, are the guys that are the bureaucrats, for the lack of a better word. That's one entry point to getting what you want on a day-to-day basis, um, versus again putting all your energies into the electoral process.
Okay, Alton. One of the things that really disturbed me, I saw some people taking children to the Gold Dome downtown in Atlanta,
Uh-huh.
and they were saying we're in the seat of power. This is the way we get laws passed. This is the way we get things done. This is how it goes. And my heart kind of sunk a little bit because I was thinking, this is not really it because you don't have any lobbyists standing there with a pocket full of money.
Thank you.
You don't have any secret meetings with cigars and all that where people are saying, here's how we're going to rig the vote.
Thank you.
And I think we have to tell our children a lot sooner than what we're doing that the political system has nothing to do with what they teaching in school right now.
Right.
You know, go back and see this. Here's Jeanette. Here I go with history again. The original signers of the Declaration of Independence did not want everybody to vote.
That's right.
They never intended for everyone to vote.
Right.
That's why they put in all these rules like you got to own land, you got to be out of debt, you got to be this, you got to be that. They were restricting it to just their buddies.
Right.
And so we've been following that model, yet teaching the lie that Alton talked about democracy.
Yeah.
And until we stop teaching that, in my opinion, then our children will grow up just as naive as we are.
Yes.
See, for instance, what's your problem in Tampa right now? And I'm gonna tell you right now, we believe that we have the ability to think for ourselves, do for ourselves, and we don't have to vote with all the other people. We can vote however we want to.
That's
And
what
that ain't true. It ought to be automatic. When I look around, I don't give a damn if Robin is not even qualified.
Mm.
I don't even give a damn. I'm gonna tell you this: if Clarence Thomas is running for office, I'm gonna vote for him if I got a choice between him and those others. And you say, but dog, he doesn't care about us. But I know what the other ones don't. Okay. And I got the best chance to get to him and change his mind.
Right.
You see? But
Yes.
if you don't understand that, then you'll
Yeah.
say, oh, that's crazy. He's Uncle Tom.
Yeah, but I do understand that.
Well,
No,
I
no, no,
think
I'm not you.
Right,
But
right,
if the
right.
masses say,
But the
Yeah.
masses, you're right, they don't understand that. But
Right.
I do believe, and
You
and
can't
I'm hearing
really-
you as well, Alton, that or you both, that should democracy be the goal? Because it never has been in place.
Well, first, okay. It is in place. It is, and technically we don't have a democracy, right? We have a republic.
Right.
But for the sake of argument,
Yeah.
democracy is quote unquote in place, but it's not in place for the reasons that Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow scream about on MSNBC. It's not in place to give you power. It's in place to regulate your power.
yes.
That narrative is there to regulate you. So yes. Again, any infrastructure that caters to the masses is ineffective. Democracy caters to the masses. Let's give these people the doggy bone. Let's make them believe that they are participating. And then when you get in there, it's like when you walk in and you go to I don't know, a car rental agency, and they say, hey, we can rent you a I don't know, a 5 Series Beamer for $30. a night, and you're like, wow, man, it's a car. And then they start listing all the buts. What's the same thing with democracy? Oh yeah, one man, one vote, until this thing called electoral college that was designed to regulate
Yes.
the masses.
Yes.
The ability to vote directly for state senator, that is technically very recent. That's 1913. It's only been 100 plus years. But this democracy has been around for 247, you know. So it's all about regulating until the regulated parts need to be oiled, or they're getting yeah, they're no longer any good. Hence, you can vote directly for your senator now. I don't know what happened politically, but before 1913, you couldn't. Your senators came out of the. I believe they came out of the Congress. They set up a slate, and they came out of that body. So democracy, and that's why I said a few minutes ago that you really gotta. If I was counseling a bunch of people that came into my office and said, "Yo, we need a strategy," the first thing I would say is, any strategy requires that you start off with a narrative, and that narrative must not include, at least in your mind, democracy, and don't repeat that word.
And what
It,
is it?
ne-
Yeah.
What
it
is
needs
it?
to it needs to be replaced with
I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you.
yeah.
Like I have a
Power.
local election here that I'm engaging in,
Hmm.
and I need my candidate on the Tampa City Council. I also need this other candidate and maybe one more who are aligned with my candidate to break through.
Hmm.
What's my strategy?
Power and domination.
Power and domination.
Okay. If you got money, you're ahead of the game also.
Right.
Well, we don't have
Okay.
money, so let's
Okay.
Well,
go.
So
then you have access to the. Well, if you don't have money, you have feet, vehicles, people with houses large enough to throw a picnic in their backyards. In other words, you don't spend time on mass media or anything like that. I would take those candidates and go directly to the black populace, because getting blacks to the polls is not a problem. We've seen that. They'll show up, but you've got to get those candidates in their faces to give them the incentive to show up. You got to make those candidates accountable to what blacks need, meaning they've got to listen to what blacks want, and then they've got to lay out a plan, and then they got to make that final sales pitch.
okay.
And
Alton. Let's take her back. Let's take her back. Remember, Goose was running,
Right.
and what sunk his ship? A
We did.
simple lie.
Yeah.
A simple lie that says he was
did,
some
but
kind of
actually,
predator.
yeah.
You know, and they played off on the trends going on right now. Right now, women are the trend, along with LGBTQFIGHT. Okay. And so if you could hit any of those kind of emotional triggers, then they can control it. So they triggered it and said he is a predator. And once they did that, he lost votes. Some women say, "Oh," and you'll say, "But it wasn't even verified." Jonathan Majors, who starred in this movie with Rocky right now, is suffering the same thing. And I mentioned it to a couple of ladies. I said, "Well, really, they haven't even come up with any evidence.
Right.
Oh, he's guilty. He's guilty. He's guilty." See, so he's already convicted just by you spreading the story.
That's correct.
I'm not even gonna call it a lie. Just spreading the story. Alton, well, I'm not even gonna say it out loud because somebody will take this tape and play it over and over and over again. But what I'm saying is that that's the same thing that you're fighting now. You got to get another story strong enough that you can go to all the black folks. Here's your chance to get what, black folk? Here's your chance. What can you get? If Robin gets on there, what's the other young lady's name?
Sonia.
Sonia gets on there, and there's a third one.
The third one is Lynn. She's white though, but she's aligned.
Lynn.
Lynn Hertag.
Okay, so if you can get those three on there, what is that going to mean for everybody you talk to? Because Alton has a good point. Knock on the door and say, "Get the three of us in there, and here's what's going to make a difference in your life." You know, Because
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying, but again, for me, it is how do we build the black voting bloc?
you ain't got time for that. I mean, that's a period of time. I told you in
But
Loudoun County.
aren't you doing the two simultaneously?
No, no, I'm saying in Loudoun County, they still came out with a voting block of votes enough to get folks elected. But what sunk their boat were the people counting the votes, the
Right.
rules, the way they made them change, and the
Mhm.
control that the other side had on the election.
Yeah.
And
Right.
therefore, I'm saying to you, you got to go to each one of these doors and say, we need to control this election, and here's why.
Yeah.
And it's got to
Yeah.
be something that's going to, they're going to be like, yeah, yeah, we need to do this.
And I would add too to Albert's point that, and again I was talking about the administrative state. You know, Stacey Abrams went into the courts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about it, and I don't know what the other part of the strategy was, but I would not have wasted time with the courts. The courts is, the courts is if you want PR, you announce courts and it's like, oh yeah, she's put up a fight. No, you go to the state's election commission, you look at their rules, and you lobby there for changes in rules. You show up and make sure that the rules are not being changed against your favor. That's where you apply the pressure. So, not the court. The courts, I mean, an administrative agency can be slow as well, but on the flip side, they're required to move as fast as possible in their area of expertise. So you bring a complaint about voting to the election commission, they're going to act. They can speed things up. They could say, "Well, we got 60 days to look at this, but given the concerns and the weight, we're going to look at this within 30 days." But long story short, you need to stay focused on the rule making so that those rules don't just change on you. You have control of the process, and the process begins in those agencies. Um, yeah, but when it comes to getting out, up here in Atlanta, there was this thing, I don't know, it pops up every election, the black slate. Well, the black slate didn't work this time, for Abrams. So it works when it comes for voting for mayors in Atlanta.
Why didn't it work, do you think?
Um,
Because we use a black slate here as well. So
yeah,
I thought she played to the alphabet people.
yeah,
I thought that's who she was after. She
yeah,
didn't spend as much time with us as I really thought that should have been there.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I've said before. I mean, I live less than a mile from Spelman. She went to Spelman. She couldn't come to the West End.
right.
You got 80-some% blacks in the West End. You couldn't just, set up a little stage right in the parking lot from the West End Mall, in the West End Mall, and say Abrams is going to be here. That's all she had to do. She'd have black people on the blue line, the red line, the yellow line, all of them coming in to the West End and listen to her.
do you
Boom.
think it's kind of difficult for black politicians to have appeal to the Spelman crowd and the West End crowd? Um,
If you are worth your
we're,
salt,
we're having that
Yeah.
difficulty, but we're having that
yeah.
sort of schism here as well, where um,
Hmm.
you've got the Divine Nine. I'm just going to call it.
Yeah.
Then you've got the other folks.
The folk.
How do you appeal to both, especially if you're more of the other
Right.
than
And
you
I was being so nice because I almost blew my chance to beat up on the bougies. So I'm glad. And let me just wind back and say, the bougies are worthless. Okay, I got it out of my system. Okay, here we go.
Okay, you said it.
I had to say it. The boulets get on my nerves. I can't stand them. Now people could look at my wall and say, "Well, oh, you got like 3 pieces of paper on your wall." Yes, I know, but my head ain't there with you guys no more. If it ever was, those are just certificates for me. For you guys, it's your entry into a white world, and that's the problem with these politicians.
okay.
You see,
That,
they
in a nutshell,
yeah.
it is the entry into white world. Now, when those folks run for positions,
Hmm.
they are less likely to fight in a way that Black
Yes.
folks need.
Yes. And for two reasons. And for
But
two
they
reasons.
don't like the way that maybe people from the other side of the tracks will fight.
Right.
So they don't
Exactly.
necessarily want to vote for them.
Right. Well, yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't feel that that side is representative of who they are. But over here, they're trying to get the card into the white world, as you say.
Yeah. And they do that for, yeah. The reason they'll give you for why they try to sound balanced or what have you is that blacks don't fund campaigns.
Right.
So whoever's funding, this, let's say, well, on the national level, you got some senatorial committee that finances a campaign. The House has a committee that finances campaigns or what have you. In exchange for that money, Al Green could say, I love my people in the, what's it, 14th district? I forgot. I love my people here in Texas. Shirley Jackson, I think is Lee. She can say the same thing. I love my people here in the district. But then who's funding their voices? That's why they can only go so far when they're speaking, because they got somebody in the background. They got Nancy. Well, it used to be Nancy. They got Nancy and Steny and your man from Clybourne, although his daughter is beautiful, James Clybourne. They just say, hold back now. Come on, we got to rein it in. Don't go that far, because
Right.
the money, they know that they can't tick off the money faucet, because they turn that off, it's game over.
Right.
See?
Let me
But-
add.
but
Let me add.
let me just-
Let me look at
Before
something
you do
here.
that, but it goes back to Lowndes County when it was time to vote. Those people who worked on those plantations, and they said this, the plantation owners really just put them all on a bus and took them down to the polls and said, "Here's who you're going to vote for, or you don't have a job." Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you bring that to present day, the same thing is here. And whether or not my employer or the people that have the keys say that to me, I understand that I've got to be careful of what I do and say, and I can't
Yes.
hit too hard
Yes.
because I could lose my white card or
Right.
something. I don't know.
And
Your honorary
your honorary white card.
'cause
Yeah.
you never get a white card.
Yeah, you never get a white card, and it's like you got that date on it. It
Right,
expires
right.
at midnight of election.
Yeah, and
right,
it's like those special deals when you go
Yeah.
on airplanes where they say you can't
Yeah.
use them on holidays, you can't
Right.
use them on special occasions,
Right.
you can't use them in conjunction with another card. Oh yeah. So to the point I was going to get to is this: you can go talk to the Divine Nine and explain to them the importance of making a difference. You got to talk to them differently than you go talk to the other our other group.
That's true.
And we say to them, "Hey, homeboy, I'm home,
Right.
and this is why I need your support on that." And they're gonna say, "Well, what's in it for me?"
Yes.
Here's what's gonna be in it for you, and you got to give them 2 or 3 good reasons. If they help you get elected on the city council, this is what you're going to get. The Divine Nine wants something else.
That's true. We want to fund that AKA banquet.
Yeah, yeah. so they're looking for one thing. The
Yeah.
other half of us are looking for the other, and you can appeal to both because there's enough that can be gathered from both sides, but you can't tell the same thing
No.
to both sides.
No.
You see,
No. That's true.
Divine Nine, hey, you guys like to party, you like to have a good time, you like to be in charge. Here's our chance. You'll have your own personal direct number to city council.
Yeah.
Okay? The other side, hey, they keep taking more of the east side. It's slowly turning into the south side. Here's what I'm gonna do to help you out. And you got to come with those kind of answers, I think.
Yeah.
That makes
I
sense.
agree.
That makes a lot of sense. So Mona is not able to get on, but she is in the comment section.
Okay, I didn't see that.
If we look back over history, Jeanette, you're correct. It hasn't worked for us and hasn't even worked for them.
Look, give them the old Obama speech. You got to vote for Obama. You got to vote for Robin. You got to. Here's our big chance in the sun. Our one time to make a difference.
And that's the speech that I'm giving, but I don't know if over the next 30 days that's going to register with those two populations that
If
we
you get out and knock on the door like Alton talked about.
well, we're
Yeah.
gonna
See,
do the
when I
door.
was there, Stanley Gray ran for city council. He he would have been a good candidate for black folk. Some kind of way, Lynn Gray sneaked in the back door. Now, that was a surprise. We were worried about the other young lady. I think Kathy was her name. Very nice young lady, but we were worried that a lot of people might relate to her. You know, but this other young lady, Lynn Gray, sneaked in the back door because there were some people in the black community, and I'm not going to call their names, even though they're big names in the community in Florida, Tampa, nonprofit organization, decided they wouldn't support civil rights. Ain't going to support.
I got
Yeah.
I ain't calling no names. I'm just
I
saying.
know. I think I may have represented them at one time. But
But I'm saying, had we just simply said, look, get this boy in here, that'll give us two.
yes.
You see, that'll give us two. And then on top of that, you'll have his own personal number to be able to go and say whatever.
Just like they have those people's own personal numbers
Yeah,
and
yeah.
numbers to boot.
See?
Why can't we play this game in the way that it needs to be played? Again, we got two factions. One over here needing on the east side needing better roads and housing and whatever else. And over here, what do they need? Because they are not coming because of who the candidate is.
You play poker?
No.
Okay, so good. I'll give you a book on playing poker. And I'll tell you what wins and what loses. And then I'll let you come play with some professionals and you see what happens. See, we're just getting into the game.
yeah.
You got to understand that. We're just getting into this game called Politics 101. A few of us think we have it down, so we like to play this idea that, oh yeah, I know I'll go buy some money here or I'll sell some money over here, or I'll get what I want. But we're still young as a people playing by the real rules and not those fake rules they keep teaching us in
Right.
school.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'm so sad to see adults saying to these young kids, this is how you get people elected. You're a
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah.
You are a lie. One man,
Yeah.
one vote won't get you anything. Money starts the ball rolling. Contacts and power will keep it going.
Yeah. When did you guys understand the Electoral College and how that worked? Because I grew up, and when I knew you back when, Alton, I really thought it was one man, one vote.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh.
I got a hint of it in undergrad because I was a poli sci major, and but it I really learned. Well, actually, I learned. I took it more seriously, looked at it a little harder when Clinton, Perot, and Bush ran in '92, because Clinton did not win a majority. He had a plurality. So that meant that the Electoral College brought him over. So I'm like, how the hell did he win? And then, oh, that's right. I heard about this in undergrad. Oh, so this is how it actually works. And from that day,
No,
and from, well, but from that day, December 15th, in my opinion, and January 6th are the true election days.
yes,
When November, I said, no. You're just voting for a slate of electors.
that's true.
You're not voting for you're not voting for the president. So yeah, so since then I tell people, but nobody listens to me on Facebook. It's like, oh no, election day is December 15th, bro. That's when the real election day happens. But even then, you'd think that these electors would be able to vote their consciences, if that's a word. No, depending on the states they live in, they're stuck with who the popular vote says won the electoral college.
Well, that's
But
what we expect that they will. um, vote according to the
Yeah.
states
Yeah,
voting.
right. And and that's the other thing we learned too, is that election power is in the states as the Constitution intended.
Right. And,
So
and I don't even think a lot of us, and I'm just going to speak for Black folks in general, really understood the kind of power states really actually have.
right. And they've been turned off from that idea because in the well, I guess really in the 80s during the Reagan years, there was this, states' rights push that the
Ugh,
Republicans, right, you see, that the Republicans pushed. And since they were very vocal about it, states' rights gets attached to the Republicans, but to their I'll be nice, to their credit, all they did was repeat what's in the Constitution. But they're repeating it because they believe it works out in their favor, that
it does.
that the Republican form of government is what was expected, and of course a Republican form of government gives them a lot more power because they're not based in your urban areas. They want that power diffused, or they want to make sure it's balanced. They want the rurals to have that power. But then again, if you listen to the Democrats and how they do not speak to the flyover states, you truly understand why this balancing act and the need for it, and I won't say sympathy, maybe some empathy for those in those smaller rural states regarding their inclusion. I mean, the left likes to talk about inclusion and diversity. Well, if you want to be inclusive and diversify, go all the way, and that includes your so-called democracy. Because don't those flyover state residents have a say as well? And that's where the Democrats will stop. And you see the hypocrisy flow when they talk about voting rights. They don't care about voting rights for everyone.
No, sir.
They care about voting rights for them, them and their two dogs walking around in Midtown, and democracy for them, for the affluent whites that live in the cities. That's who they care. That's who they care about. They don't care about Cobb.
Democrat.
So what are you running into there in Tampa, Jeanette? What are people saying, and what is your feeling about the challenge facing Robin right now?
Right. So we have like about 30 days, and Robin is pretty optimistic. But I get the feel that blacks, contrary to what you said earlier, Alton, blacks just don't come out and vote unless we figure out the incentives. And now I did hear that. I did hear that piece. And I don't know that we've figured out what will incentivize those two groups that we've identified, what will get them out in about 30 days to vote for Robin. Because
Right.
if they do, then by all means, she will prevail, and likely the two others on that ballot that we're rooting for will as well.
Well,
So
this gets to
what I'm
Albert's
feeling
point.
though, what I'm feeling though is it's not one of their own, let's say the more affluent Black
Prestige.
people.
Yeah.
It's not one of their own, and they would prefer it to have been one. Because of that, they may stay home or not encourage those, if they're living in outside of the city, may not encourage those who do to get out and vote, so that we can have that power. And it may have nothing to do with anything, but that's not who we would have selected. And I'm afraid that we're missing the bigger picture that we've been talking about, or that was discussed in Lowndes County. Black power. Because we did see in Lowndes County, those folks didn't even know what the jobs entailed. They studied up on it and put those people in, and so I don't understand why we can't do that.
You gotta sell it. They get there's prestige for those people that you're talking about. Where did they get their prestige? Okay, I would go sell those Divine Nine and all those people at that level. And even if Robin is not the one they want, even if that other young lady is not the one they want, it's better than what they're gonna get.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the
Okay.
ultimate.
I
Yep.
didn't want Obama. I didn't think he was the man for the job. But that's what we had.
Yeah. I
You
think
know.
also, and going to Albert's point, I think when it comes to the political gamesmanship, you need a is it red flag or black flag moment? Yeah. And
Red
red
flag
flag,
moment.
I think is a yeah, I think it's red flag.
All right, tell me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Remember the Maine, 1898. The U.S. goes into a war with Spain over a lie. No, I'm not saying put out a lie.
I was like, what are we
Okay,
doing?
yeah, I know. I'm not saying put out a lie, but I'm saying, but you need an event. You need an October surprise.
Yeah, well, that's what I said earlier. Yeah,
Yeah,
we need some way. They need an emergency moment,
yeah.
something that's so critical to them that if they don't do it, it's going to spell danger for them. And that's the part that I don't know. This is low level here. I don't see
Yeah,
where you got an emergency.
yeah. There's really not any.
Right. I'm hard pressed to figure out the emergency, except an understanding that this is a historical moment. Well, while that seems important to me, it does not seem to be important to a whole lot of folks.
I would get Goods. I would talk to go talk to Goods and say, hey, I need your help. They did you in. Are we gonna let them keep on doing the rest of us in? Help me out. That would be one thing I would do. I would then go to a couple of them nonprofits, maybe them special
Yeah.
organization people whose name I'm not going to mention, and say, "Hey, yo, this is our time, okay, to do something, okay." You can take all the money you want, you can do all the mess you want, but when you get ready to talk to your people in silence, let them know this is our time.
Yes, Ramona says, I believe it'll be a huge emergency if the mayor's mother-in-law gets elected. But that'll be after the fact.
That's after the fact. That helps nobody. Where is the danger zone for black people?
Trying to
See,
tell you.
see,
Yeah, and I think it's
Tell
it's
you.
it's external to local politics, which is why. But so
So in local politics, every vote does count, right?
no,
I don't know.
no, it's the same. Nothing
It's the same
changed.
thing. Same.
Football at Pee Wee is the same as football in the NFL.
Yeah,
Okay,
the little
everybody's
and the little ones hit harder.
That's right. Everybody's tackling. Everybody's trying to score points.
Yeah,
It's the same game, no matter where you are.
So
yeah,
our strategy has been that we get as many people to the polls as possible to vote for Robin.
right.
Here
Verse.
has been your strategy. Your strategy has been to discount the people that you know are not going to go for you and focus over here and hope that these people vote for you. And I'm saying you got to get a strategy for both those people and go after them hard for the
Yeah.
next 15,
Right.
30 days.
Get as many votes out as possible
No,
because
not get as many votes because, see, you've already said, the Divine Nine don't care. So that means you're not going to spend a lot of time with them. And I'm saying you need to strategize, organize, and plan a way. Like I often say, go knock on their door. Capitals when they're having a meeting. Alphas when you're having a meeting. AKAs when you're having a meeting.
Yeah.
I need to come and spend 5 minutes with you to tell you why this is going to change your life.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. And their
This
lives.
ain't, yeah,
they-
this ain't about whether you like me or I like you. It's time for us to say we are here.
yeah,
And you know what? One way, especially to speak to the Divine Nine.
Albert, go ahead.
Yeah, one way to speak to the Divine Nine, those types, they forget that their prestige, I won't say power, they ain't got none. Their prestige is tied to an infrastructure that's getting a lot closer to kicking them off.
Yes.
No, that's true.
So yeah, you gotta go at them and say, yeah, no,
That's true.
that utility that I'm almost getting in trouble, Albert trying to avoid. There it goes. That utility that's been funding your boule dinners and shit.
Right.
They're having some problems in Tallahassee, and they have some choices to make, and you're on the cutting board. But we can take care of that.
Right.
See, that's what you got to do. It's like, oh my God, they gave us 25,000 toward that. Oh my, we can't do without that money. That's what you gotta. That's what you gotta look at. You see, that's where you hurt them, because all of their prestige is based on, you know, what they get from the infrastructure, and
right.
they got a whole lot more from the infrastructure.
I
That's
just
what you
heard a
gonna have
lady
to.
today talk about. She was talking to Karen Hunter, and she said that after the George Floyd incident, a lot of these corporations put millions of dollars into diversity and equity programs,
Right
Yes.
and now they're
now,
using this economy to
as the
cut back.
excuse,
And what do you think they're cutting back on?
DEI,
That's right.
DEI is going bye bye.
They're going bye bye. So,
Right.
so in other words, they paid a couple of pennies to
Yes.
quieten you down, and now they're gonna kind of run you out. And guess
Well,
who some of those people are going to be called when they get ready to move them out?
Yeah.
The Divine
The
Nine.
Divine Nine. Yeah, because they're the ones on LinkedIn. Oh, I'm the VP of
Right,
DEI,
right,
blah, blah, blah. I
right.
said, that's nice. That means you're the first one on the cutting board. And as a side note, I don't get it sometimes. I look at these people, I'm like, don't y'all understand the business that you are in?
Right.
Your position does not increase, does not bring in any returns on the capital that that corporation shells out. None, zero. You don't even have any hiring power. It's like telling me, oh, also I'm the VP of DEI. Oh yeah, can you hook a brother up with a job? Well, I ain't got no hiring power. Then what good are you? And that's the same thing the boardroom is saying. They're saying, okay, it was good PR. We got a write off for 2020 and 2021 and 2022. Now it's time to say bye bye. And they're gonna kick them out.
We got 2 minutes, guys.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm looking to create a voting block, not directly, but indirectly through this effort, right? Through this effort. But what I'm hearing you guys say, and I think it's kind of what maybe we're talking about now, and that is the door knocking, the strategic messages, one to one group, the other, but look for the value proposition in both, in terms of, you know, hey, Divine Nine, here's what you get.
We need you. We need you.
Here's what you're
Divine
about to
Nine.
lose, and here's
Yeah,
what you could
because
potentially.
because here's what's coming down the pike. They're getting ready to cut back on some funding, and guess whose jobs are going to go first?
Yep. Yours.
Yeah, I wrote a letter to the Divine Nine and to some of the major nonprofits, but it didn't really do what you just suggested, and that is to describe, and here's what you gain.
Right.
Yeah.
And do that.
And that is the base, to quote Yvette Carnell, politics is an exchange. That's what it is. It is a bunch of politicians out there buying and selling votes. That is it. That's all they do, actually. But that's how you have to approach it. It's an exchange. What's the value proposition? And where does your power come from? And is it being threatened? And if so, I'm going to let you know it's being threatened. And I may even offer how to help you avoid that threat in exchange for. That's it. That's what it boils down to. That is it. It's not that damn fluff you hear from all these politicians. No, that word salad nonsense. No.
All right, all right. I was wishing Mona could get back on,
Right.
but definitely good advice, you guys. But I'd like to see if we could prevail. But
As long as you understand it is not one man, one vote.
Right.
And understand that this is not about representation, it's about power and control.
power and
You
control.
yeah. Bobby Wright, who wrote a book some years ago called The Psychopathic Racial Personality, said the minute that the bull figures out that it's not the red cape but the matador, he said that's when the real fight begins. And that's what we've got to do.
That's
We
really
got to stop buying into the red cape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great note to finish on. Stop buying into the red cape.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by that, we get our voting block. And I'm intent on that. So even after this election, that's what you're going to be hearing from me on a lot on these calls. But I thank you guys for the time tonight. Good discussion as always. And I'll keep you posted on where we go and how we do in this election. April 25th. Early voting starts, I believe, April 17th through 23rd. And we are going to be working to get that black vote out. So,
And by the way, happy belated birthday.
yes, thank you
Yeah,
so
how
much.
old are you
You're
now?
welcome. Well, she a baby.
Is that really something that you're asking? I can't